Well, good morning, everyone. Hello, Heather. Hello, John. It's always a little slower for people joining when we do it at this time.
Good
I'm
morning.
sure that we'll get. Hey, Heather, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. Yeah, I'm sure we'll get a few more people along as we always do as the morning progresses. We'll see what happens there. Tamara, loving that camera. That looks great. Is that
Thanks.
new? Is it
I
new to you? No,
think so. I've had it a while.
maybe it's just a different angle or something. I'm not
I think because
used
it's
to seeing
5 a.m. in Los Angeles, and so my light is a little more bright than normal.
No, I appreciate your commitment. So we'll see some other if other people join us, but otherwise, it's just the four of us so far. It's the A team, the committed. So, John and Tamara, if you've got any questions, you can fire away right now. If you've
Hello,
questions.
everyone.
I probably have a question.
Welcome to another exciting
Hang
episode
on 1 second.
of Obvio Q&A. A few new faces, which is awesome. It's great to see. People have got here early as well.
I think
it seems extra early
speaker is
because
just going
it's
on.
morning for me. So I have to remind myself that most of you have been up and having at the end of your day. So it's easy for you to join this call. Hello, Heather. Lovely to see you again.
Is anyone else hearing this?
Oh, that's you. Heather, did you open?
What's coming through?
Did you?
Great. So,
Yeah, it is you, Heather. You had YouTube open as well. Is that right?
I'm like, am I going crazy? No, I was trying to find something. Sorry, from the other week's call for someone in an email, and I clicked on it like 10 minutes ago. I guess it just decided to start.
So
I
weird.
apologize.
That's totally fine. So that was that was a bit of inception. I thought it was me because sometimes I do that. I leave it open and then at 20 seconds later it starts up and I confuse myself. But it didn't sound direct. That's why I was like, this sounds like it's coming from someone else's. Anyway, Tamara, sorry, fire away. You can just speak out your question with the
That's okay. So I just started with Obvio a couple weeks ago. I've run 2 events so far, and they were my easier of the events. My more difficult event is coming up. I have an event where people come in, and I have writers who pitch to Broadway producers. And so they do like a speed date. So internally, they move from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting. One of the reasons that I wanted Obvio was to run this meeting because we spend endless amounts of time renaming them and doing all of that kind of craziness. So I understand all the renaming. I've got that down. Naming upon entry is my favorite thing so far. Love it. Here's my question. Can I, because I have 2 different groups of writers and I have that come in at different times, is it possible to have their dashboard look like group A looks like group A and has their buttons arrive when they come in and group B's come in a different time? Because I can't move those producers to another room. These are hard enough to get them in one room. So, in the past, I've used 3 different meetings, which is another great thing for Obvio because my millions of accounts can just be in one place, which I love. But that's my main thing. And I'm trying to find ways to, can I use that, I guess the timer variable feature to show people different things for different groups of people?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great use case for visibility rules. So you said you have different writers. And so then, are you able to identify them either with a tag or a group? They're a different group of people? Yep.
They're a different group, and they have different they literally have a whole different set. Like they come at different times. Their naming is different because I have to name them specifically in order to get them to be able to be moved by my stage manager from room to room.
Gotcha. Okay. And when you say moving them, that's in breakout rooms within Zoom?
Yeah.
Is that how you do that? Yeah. Okay. So it's more about the access to that Zoom meeting to start with, is who has what access to which. This is a thing when we when we have areas and rooms that we call within Obvio, and then you have breakout rooms. I you know, I've lobbied for us right from the start. I wanted to call them not rooms, but call them meetings. But in some ways, and so because it gets confusing when you start talking about breakout rooms. So we always have to be very explicit about it's breakout rooms and the difference then within with rooms. But let me show you. One of the things that you could do is in lots of ways on the dashboard. You have, this is our dashboard that that you've just come through. And one of the things that you can see here is this is the button you click just then to actually get into this meeting. But here's another meeting that we were doing at another time, and we've currently got it disabled there, right? So no one can see it. But of course, what we can do as well is rules. Have you seen these? Visibility rules, yeah?
Yes, and I've used them to do tags and things like that, and I love them.
Okay. Okay, great.
Day.
So then, obviously then what it means is that you could have a whole selection of buttons that were only for a group, and then another set of buttons, that are for another group. And I would only see the buttons that apply to them. Does that work for what you're thinking about?
That will work.
I
think that will work perfectly because
mm-hmm.
Because then I can because the buttons can be assigned to the same meeting,
but
come up at different times, and they kind of don't overlap. Like one of them they go to coaching in one separate area, like they would be in a whole different meeting.
Gotcha.
And so they go to coaching first, and then they get a little break, and then they come to the pitch session. So that was one of the things that I was hoping Obvio could do, and it can. So I'm pretty excited. Yeah, that would solve that for me. Now, can I also, since I'm taking all of your time, can I also have different resources? Can I set a resource to a tag as well? So like if I have a group A schedule, I can put it into resources and then attach a rule to it. Oh, I love this so much.
Sure can. Yeah. And the other thing that you can do with resources is you can add, let me think here. You can add an item, and then you can add a whole another group of resources, right? So see this, we've already got a resources thing here. Helpful links is a resource group. You could add a whole nother group, and then you could just put visibility rules on that whole group rather than doing it individually.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And so then that way, you can really customize it. And then not have to worry about, you just know that this whole section, no matter what you put in there, is only going to be shown based on the visibility rules that you have put in for that section.
That's great, because I don't want to give anybody too much to look at.
Right.
This is the whole purpose, is to make things seamless, and getting them to do a new system is already mind blowing. But
right.
But on my end, it's revolutionary. So
well, yeah, being able to control it, I mean, people's names for sure, right? controlling that. Are you using labels as well for people's names, or you haven't needed to do that?
No, so
You're not-
we do. So I used labels in my last that's how I renamed people in my last event, is I used
Gotcha.
labels and I put little pencils after their names, and it was very cute writing group.
Nice.
In this particular meeting, because I am not high tech enough yet in that meeting, partly because I've spent so much time trying to get people in and out of meetings, that I'm hoping that once I have Obvio set up, I can focus a little bit more. Once they're in the meeting, they have to be, I've got four different groups in a meeting. So I have like a little group of hosts, I have producers, I have trailing producers who watch, and then I have writers, and the writers switch from breakout room to breakout room, and they go through a cycle of 11 different rooms that they go to. So in order for my stage manager to actually find people to move them, because we have not automated this system yet, we have to like really capitalize all the writers. So he's just looking for capitalized people and moving them from room to room, and everyone else is kind of ghosted in their place. So so yeah, I do need like very specific naming, and we spend a whole training session teaching people how to name themselves, and I can't do that anymore. It makes I just can't. I can't live my life renaming people who can't name.
No, exactly. Yeah, automating that on the way that people come in, labels is so powerful for that. One of the things, I don't know how much you dive into the labels thing, but you may find this. Let me just do an extra element on labels, and that is that obviously you can do a thing where like you were doing where you had a pencil and away it went, whatever that is. It looks like a knife, and so you can easily do that, and you do the visibility rule, and you say, if they have a certain tag, then away it goes. The thing that might be helpful for you, I don't know if you saw this, is that you can also just append a whole group, the text within a group. So what that means is that when we're looking at an attendee, we can have a group. We could even call it label, and now within the attendee import, or however you bring your people in, you can do all of your labeling within a group and not have to build out visibility rules for everyone. You can now say, you can do emojis, but you could also have some sort of initials or whatever it was that you put in here.
For this one, we always put like WA, writers A, and
Right.
then we end up capitalizing their names and doing all this other crazy stuff so that they can be found. So I'm
Yeah, interesting, because once you have that label on there, as you know, it'll show, sort of a dash and then whatever you put in, that type of thing. Then for moving them into breakout rooms, you could search for -WA,
right.
and then you'll see all of those, right? So if you were to get creative about how you label them, then you should never need to rename them in the meeting.
Right.
You can kind of sort them all within and filter them within Zoom, just by searching for that unique, unique label. So yeah, there's some pretty powerful stuff there. But yeah, that's such a great use case for Obvio, because particularly when you're managing multiple meetings and you're trying to send people links and things might change, and you're trying to send them individual Zoom links and give them instructions, all of that. Now you just send them a link. They don't need to log in. You know who they are. they click the link. You can spin up another Zoom meeting if you need to. All of that stuff just makes that so much easier, right?
Yeah, it definitely does. Like that. This is going to be the one event where I'm like, okay, this pays for itself. Like, because I do have
Right.
a lot of people who are not, they think they're in Zoom, but they're really clicking into the website. They're not really in Zoom. And they're like, but I Zoom, I don't need a tech check. I'm like, you really do. Like, so, and this will free up the people who use it. And also my team, because they're not really computer tech people either. So I need to make it
Right.
simple. I need to do all the heavy lifting. But I'm tired.
sounds like you're doing great, and I think breakout rooms are super powerful. I mean, we on the larger events that we use, we are using breakout rooms in its normal kind of usage. We're breaking attendees into groups for them to talk, and that sort of thing. But very early on, in when we started doing these virtual events more full on with the pandemic, I started using breakout rooms for stages and for other ways of kind of moving people through a process. And we actually even kind of we got to a point, there was a couple of more complex shows that we had, where we stepped people through different specialists for preparing them. And so, we had kind of a makeup person that was talking to them about their makeup. And then there was another person who was talking just about video. And there's another person just talking about audio. We sort of move them through this process and then get them into the stage. And now we know they're totally ready, and they're able to talk on stage, and things like that. It's just so powerful.
I've run audition events where I brought 200 actors in front of 70 or 80 people, so that I could do them globally, which is great. And, I went in and did little lighting design for each and every one of them.
That's cool.
Before,
Yeah.
but I'm getting to the point where I want to be able to make that process easier. And I'm the tech person. There's no one else in my organization that's a tech person. So I feel like I've been stuck in the getting people in the room space, that I haven't been able to kind of figure out how to automate that process and a little bit, just up that a little bit, because I'm stuck doing this stuff. So I'm hoping that this will help me, bring some other people in who can handle some of this stuff and just do the pre-setup stuff, so I can really kind of figure out some of that, how to use the breakout rooms as a backstage area better, and how to
Right.
how to deal with the production side of it.
Yeah, there's a couple of things actually just in the last week. Zoom announced that they're supporting shortcuts like Apple shortcuts.
I saw this on office hours.
Right.
Okay, so that's another question. Can I use Zoom OSC and shortcuts and Zoom cuts in Obvio?
Not quite. Well, so let me say it this way: you can. We have full support for Zoom OSC in the enterprise plan, right? So when you pay for Obvio Enterprise, I'll give you an example here. Let me do this meeting. I'll show you this. So when you're on Enterprise, you get a whole new panel here. See this? So now you get the meeting Zach, the password and the ID, and now you've got direct access to that. You can plug that straight into Zoom OSC, and away you go. So there's full control of that. We know that it's kind of higher end and automation and production usage, and so because of that, it's kind of an enterprise only feature. The thing that we're playing around, I've just started playing with the last few days, is Zoom Cuts, because it's a free service from Zoom, is looking at how we can kind of get a start link into that to then be able to have an Obvio meeting ran in Zoom Cuts.
Is
So
there Is there another workaround that I could do with Companion or Stream Deck to spotlight and highlight and do all those things? Or do I really have to go to the my income does not match enterprise, but my need
fair enough. No, I totally get that.
does not match video, but I'm doing it anyways.
Yeah, I'm still playing with what might be possible there. And so yeah, I think to answer the question, no, as in there's not a way to be able to get Zoom Cuts or Zoom OSC into an Obvio meeting. Well, that's not true actually. Really what you have to do is intercept the Zoom launch that happens. And I actually asked this of Zoom days ago around making Zoom Cuts the default Zoom client so that when you launch something, it launches in Zoom Cuts and not standard Zoom.
Yeah.
And so I've been able to play with that with Firefox. I was able to you could sort of choose what the default app was. So you could have a little play with that. There's also some other plugin or something for Chrome that can work with it. Anyway, that would be the thing, is actually getting it to join. And even as an attendee, getting that attendee link, yeah, it's a little bit tricky there. And this is one thing that we've just got to explore, that we want to be able to make available, particularly even to be able to get into Zoom Cuts and have that join an Obvio meeting. And the thing with that is, we saw an example of playing around with Zoom Cuts. This was a kind of really cool use case, and what it was setting up an automation that everyone that had their video on, had their cameras on, this automation would loop through everyone that had their camera on, and it would unmute them for 10 seconds. And then it would mute them, and then unmute the next person, right? And so it was a fully automated process. And it was all just about introductions. You've got 10 seconds to introduce yourself. And because it was timed and automated, inevitably it just cuts them off. You got 10 seconds, and then it moves to the next person. You got 10 seconds. And what's interesting is that Zoom Cuts also has breakout room support. And so it's pretty powerful what could be done there, searching for people by a particular part of their name, and then say move them into this breakout room. One of the things I want to play with too is the idea of when you're in breakout sessions and someone comes to the main meeting, based on who they are, automatically move them to the room that they need to be in, so that you don't have to have someone in that main meeting monitoring it. If someone gets disconnected for some reason, they can come straight back in and they get reassigned automatically to that breakout. So there's lots of that sort of cool automation stuff that I'm interested in playing with.
I am too, especially in kind of the event that I do now, because right now someone has to physically move them. But if I had them pre-set up and I could just do even a button for each of the rotations where I'm like, here they go now. Here's number 2. Number 3. Here's number 4. That would make my stage manager and everyone's life so much easier. They don't have to be as tech savvy. They just press a button.
Yeah. Well, I'll keep exploring that for you. In the meantime, I think that Zoom Cuts is going to be is kind of the even lighter version of OSC, and so it's going to be a wider audience, and therefore we want to see if we can support it in some way. The other interesting thing is that the Zoom client on the phone and iPad will support shortcuts, right? And that's the native app, which means there's nothing special to do. Just launch it on your iPad or phone and do all your automation from that, which would totally work. So they haven't totally released that yet. Apparently they're rolling out all the app updates, but not actually enabling the shortcuts yet. But that'll be an interesting thing too. So
Alrighty.
anyway,
Thank you so much.
great. Yes, no worries. Welcome others who have come. Elaine, welcome. Nice to see you. Jenny. On this early morning, we've got it's a little quieter than normal, isn't it, Heather? Normally have a few more people by now.
Yeah. I made sure all the buttons were still working on the dashboard.
Me too. Yeah, that's what I was checking. That's right. Oh, someone was asking. Did you see the Facebook post that was a little while ago?
Yep, I replied to that.
Okay, cool.
Well, while we've got a little bit of a downtime, I'm
Sure.
just starting to come to these meetings the past couple of times. So I have not launched anything yet on the site. I'm still working on a couple of things. But one question I have to get suggestions is that I'm not going to be the one to do the audio stuff or the technical stuff. So I want to get a good idea of maybe 3 or 4 key things that I need to look for in getting a part-time tech person to assist with doing small meetings.
So I was just distracted by John's perfectly timed comment. Thank you, John. That you didn't see an update there, a broadcast that went out. Maybe I should send a broadcast while we're here. That sounds great, Elaine.
Which part sounds great? Needing it or?
Well, no, I think that even if you could do it all yourself, it's better to have someone to do it for you, because it means that you can focus on the parts that only you can do. And so, are you thinking, how do you find that person? Is that the question that you're thinking of? Or
I think that would probably be more locally. The question is really, if I'm going to do, let's say, a very short, well, not even a job description, but this is what I'm searching for. So I want them to have A, B, and C. So it's not enough to say, well, they need to be familiar with using Zoom, because clearly OVO goes into some other things, and live events is a little bit different. So the idea would be that, again, this would be part-time. Right now, I'm organizing a couple of small gatherings, and you're right. My area is to be able to concentrate on what's going on with the participant and not what's going on with any of the technology that's needed.
Yeah, that is good. Look, I'm thinking of a few things at once.
And I'm not going to be paying a lot of money initially.
Well, sure. And so that actually tells you a little bit of what you're limited by, right? And I think about this sort of thing all the time, in this sort of technical field, is what percentage, this is what I think about, what percentage of skills versus personality and attitude when it comes to team members. Because I think it used to be that you cared more about what they knew and what they were able to do than you did about, their attitude or their personality or their, who they are. I think that that's shifted. And the reason I think it's more important, the person that you get, than what they know. Because what has shifted is that the technology is actually getting easier and easier to use. And so therefore it's not as technical as it was, which means that the type of person you're looking for is someone who is really attentive, has a real focus on attention to detail, and someone who is self-motivated and takes initiative. Like, this is the key factors of a team member, is someone who is just going to understand what is required and then go about and learn how to do it. And so then now it can be anyone, right? Like, it's finding that right type of person that's going to learn on the job, and they're almost going to teach themselves. Now, I agree with you that there's a bit of a learning curve with Obvio. Like, there absolutely is. You got to sort of learn some of the terminology and kind of the thinking behind how we work with Zoom meetings and dashboards and all of that. And I get that. I think that we're providing more and more resources now to help people get an understanding of that and pick that up. So what I'm saying is, you getting someone probably not paying a lot, so you're probably going to get some younger, and who will probably instinctively know Zoom because they've grown up on computers, right? And so now it's totally personality, and arguably having someone who is interested in your field, in your community, I think could be even more beneficial than finding someone who is just understands the technology. Someone who has interest in what you're doing, could be really valuable. And now it's a team member that just learns, and we all know people, and we've done it ourselves, right? Out of necessity, we've gotten into something, and now we go on this big steep learning curve to learn how to do this thing, and eventually you become an expert in it because you keep working on it. And so Jenny was saying about churches. Churches are a great place for you to see all the techs, the production crew and things that work in churches. Often a great place.
Okay.
Often.
So even with that, things that I think about, and you're absolutely right about, what you just shared. But I think about someone who is knowledgeable about the proper equipment that I need to have to be able to, I mean, I know how to use, smartphones and those, minimal things, but the right kind of equipment to be able to actually set aside part of my space as a studio. I don't need to have anything elaborate, right? Right now, where I am right now, I can do, everything, but I've got some dedicated area to do this with. And I know that I need some better, not just equipment, but I know that I've got some challenges with my internet service provider. So I'm pretty much on that. But, if there's maybe 2 or 3 other things that I would not normally say, think about or query someone about, then I think that would, add to what you all are just sharing this morning.
Yeah. And I think that there is some need for sort of consulting, like that not necessarily a team member that is regularly with you, but some production experts that would be able to give you the pointers and potentially set up some things for you, and come and debug your internet problems or whatever, and do all that, and then leave it to more of a junior that you were talking about to continue to help you, but having more of an expert to to work on that. So about the Facebook page, there are, and when I say about consultants, immediately I think of people like Muddy and Justin James, and there's a few Ken. There's quite a few different people that are in the Obvio community that would totally get what you're on about and wanting to do, and would be able to give you help. I think some of them are nice enough to be able to volunteer a little bit of that, and then they would also be open to a day or two or something of
and also there's several colleges. I'm in the DC area, so there's several different colleges. Plus, I also look at was in contact some time ago when I was doing government contracting with some of the people who work for the government who probably are now retiring out, but who have been in the production field for a while. So I think based on just being able to talk about this morning, I can probably go to both avenues. We've probably got like 10 colleges that are in this area. I know it doesn't have to be somebody who's physically here, but this is a good time to get some ideas. So I think I'm a little bit more confident about moving forward on that, because I'm not going to be dealing with that. I know enough about it to know if somebody's probably not the right fit.
Yeah. I think looking locally is a great idea, because someone being able to come and sit in your space and things and be able to check over some settings and things like that. So as much as I think the bulk of that can be done remotely, if you find someone that's local, then all the better, right?
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you, group. I also see the chats and the recommendations.
Yeah. Great. So for a little bit of I did a little bit of multitasking there. I'll just show you as a matter of interest. I was just getting a reminder broadcast. So as a reminder, this is our broadcast module, which is still in beta, and it's an opt-in. You can just request to have access to this. And so this is being able to send emails out to your attendees, and it's getting more and more powerful. We've just added being able to filter, and so now you can send out to particular groups and things like that. So Tamara, you're like, oh, this looks exciting. Yeah. So I don't know if you have already, but send an email to help@obv.io and ask for broadcast, and we can turn it on for you. So this is an email that should be going out in, oh no, what, 40?
It's 8:39 here.
Yeah, we've been going for 40 minutes already. I was like, really? Great. So it'll go out in a few minutes, and so this will send to everyone. And we've got just a simple little message that was sent before, and this sends the login URL for each attendee. So they'll see it, they'll be able to click that and come and join us. That's how that will work. So I've set that up, and we'll watch, and then we'll see how many more people come and join us because of that broadcast. But yeah, we're playing around with that more. Adding that filters section is a real game changer for it, because you can really hone in on particular groups of people that you need to send to. Initially, we just had checked in and not checked in, and so if they hadn't been to the dashboard at all, then you could send to them and say, hey, come and join us. We've just started. That sort of thing. You could give updates for people. So anyway, in a few minutes. We'll see if we get a few more people. In the meantime, Amy, you had a broadcast that didn't go out because it was checked for not checked in on Tuesday. There you go. That's a trap for young players, right? If it was, if you have it is filtering like that, then yeah, it'll only go to the people that had not been to the dashboard, not checked in. Yeah, sorry about that.
Jenny, I saw you had your hand raised. Did you have a question?
Not really a big question. It's just I'm next week I'll be loaded. This week I'm still in the planning stages. Just an update on the camera situation, and then how many students does it justify to do a breakout room? Would it be you need like 20, 30, 100, or
So I guess it depends on what you want the attendees to do within the breakout room. What's your thinking there? This is craft, right?
Yes. I'm almost thinking initially I know I'm probably not going to have enough people to have a breakout room. But we're going to think big. Yeah, I just wanted to be prepared for it. I think that I don't necessarily in my laying out my program, I don't know that breakout rooms, if they're actually doing craft, if they're actually doing a project or something, I think it would end up being distracting. So I'm not sure, but it was just a question I had this week, that I put in my book. But an update, go ahead.
I think it's a great question, because it's one of those things, in your particular use case. I'm conscious I keep saying powerful for some reason this morning. But it is powerful. I need a thesaurus open to give me other words for powerful. It is a
Strong.
helpful, strong, useful function, because you think about, I mean, you know this very well, having a bunch of people in a room that are doing craft, probably around tables, they're almost naturally in breakout rooms, right? Like they're around maybe some big tables, and they're sort of working independently but sharing table. Thank you, Amy. Dominant. It's dynamic. It is dynamic. And so they're naturally sitting within smaller groups, and so they're looking at each other and they're kind of helping each other a little bit, while at the same time having some instruction from you and some direction and whatever. So that's in person. This is something that I do often, is I think about what is the analog, what is what happens in a room if we were all in the same physical room together. What does that look like? And then what does it look like with it being online? And what are the pros and cons? And inevitably there are some significant pros to them being online. And one of those in this case is that they have their own setup. They've got all their own space. And what can happen with a breakout room is that you can move them to be in a group of 3 or 4, a small group, to sort of compare notes. But here's the powerful thing, is that you can you can I used it again. I said powerful. Here's the impressive thing, is that you can switch those breakout rooms instantly, right? So now they're sitting with another group of 2 or 3 in person, because they're not going to shift their sewing machines around and, do their whole thing. But they can easily in this sort of environment. And so I would encourage you to think about it in that sort of term. What would it mean for people to compare notes a little bit with each other? Because what breakout rooms does is it gives the ability for multiple conversations to happen simultaneously, rather than just that single conversation, which is still fine. And probably, to answer your question from my perspective, I think that a meeting of about 20 people, you can sustain quite a good conversation, engaging people, like we do on this every week, right? There's often we're like talking to a few different people, and and it's generally around the 20 or so people have their cameras on, and and we can engage with that. More than that, sort of more than 20, getting into 30, 40, now you're kind of getting a bigger number where people could feel like they want to engage more and they're not able to as easily. And so there, I could see in your use case, a larger group, I could see a time where you would say, okay, let's break into some smaller breakout rooms, and we're going to do a 15-minute session or a 20-minute session where you just continue working, and then I'm going to come around to each group.
I like
and so
that.
then you drop into each one of those breakout rooms, and now you can take specific questions, and sort of, you know what I mean? It's kind of that, it's the equivalent of walking around to the table and seeing what people are doing in the group of 3 or 4 or something like that, right?
Yeah. Can you just come and work for me and with all those ideas that you always have and for free?
Do you know?
That's brilliant. I love that.
Well, and the thing is too, I really like your that you're exploring the tools, and thinking, what can I do with that? But I guess that's a double-edged sword, and you want to be careful that you're not looking at all the tools on the shadow board and go say, what is it that I want to make? And then I'm going to find the right tools for it. And there's a subtle difference. And I think in this case, what you want to be thinking about is, what is the experience of that individual, the individuals that I have there, and what is it that I want to make better? Not, okay, I've got breakout rooms, I can throw that at them. No, I'm thinking about, what is the experience that I want them to have? I want them to be able to connect with other like-minded people or people with similar interests. And so and so what's the best way of doing that? And it could be that a group of 20 is the best way of doing that. And they don't want to go into breakout rooms because they don't want to miss anything else that's happening in the other rooms. Because that sometimes happens, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of the things with you going around to individual breakouts, is it's like, you could do that and that could work really well, or that might still work better in the larger group. And everyone's learning from the questions and the answers and things like that. So anyway, I'm not trying to undo what I just said, but I really, yeah, want you to, it's a fine balance, because we've all been to events that have tried to do too much. And then we've been to online events, particularly, that have tried a bunch of bells and whistles, and they've missed the point. And they've missed that we are people right here, and we're just wanting to connect. We're just wanting to talk. We're just wanting to, and we don't need a bunch of tricks. We'll get bored of that very quickly. And I'm not saying breakout rooms are a trick, right? Used carefully, there.
Yeah, I'm just I'm analyzing whether, in my particular case, I love the idea of going maybe in the longer sessions where, in the high ticket offer, the breakout rooms might really work. But I'm almost
Right.
thinking that they would lose the it's kind of like a Tony Robbins event. You know, you lose the momentum and the energy and the wow
Mhm.
factor in a breakout room. And sometimes breakout rooms, even doing their big events, didn't work. You know,
Mhm.
people
Mhm.
yammer on, and yeah, it doesn't work well. So I like that point about going, possibly that might be a tool. I think almost that I could add in the high ticket offer and have individualized on point assistance. I think that's something I could actually put in my high ticket offer. So thank you. But just an update on the camera. I spent
Yeah.
a month and thousands of hours on YouTube. I did watch the woodworking. Wow, that gal, holy cow. She must have about a $10,000 or $15,000 setup. She's a powerhouse. Holy cow.
Yeah. It's inspiring, right? Like, it was cool to
Yeah.
see.
So she's using on her side camera, she's using an SV1, Sony
Mhm.
SV1. And Sony SV1 didn't quite fit because that's originally what I was going to go with. And
Okay.
so I'm going with the Sony E10, and it's on its way. I
Right.
can, because I'm a photographer on the side,
Yeah.
to do my work, I can have those interchangeable lenses and that
Nice.
type of thing. So
And you can keep using it.
yeah, it's got a little more power. It's got a little more abilities than the SV1, and so I like the versatility of it. And then when I get my first big check, I'll buy a second and a third. You know.
Love it.
So this is okay. When we had talked before about they're probably going to have ability to use two devices, have the one
Yes.
main device for watching, have their other device for. So next week I'll be asking about the technical video. I'm going to hold on that right now and what I really need to include in that. But my question is, I'm thinking that I need to just stop. I'll have to go to breaks since I'm on a one camera system and a one person team. I'm going to have to go to breaks to be able to switch the camera over to the machine. In other words, okay, so I'm going to have to figure out my timing. And this might not be an Obvio question, but I'm just talking through my head. So I'm going to have to work out my timing in my course where we're not going to a bathroom break so that I can switch the camera over, you know, and you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Do you mean
So I'm
switching
trying to
cameras
figure out
or resetting up, or
resetting up.
moving
In
the
other
camera?
words,
Yeah.
I'll have it set where all I have to do is grab the camera and pop it. But I'm trying to work out my timing, and I think until I do a beta test, I have several friends that are unfortunately have been volunteered to be students.
Voluntold.
Yeah, having them log in from all over the country and on different
Really
types
cool.
of devices, and then for me to try to figure my timing out. I'm just not quite sure about that. And I think until I do a run, I'm not going to know anyway. So I won't hold up your time.
Well, look, I mean, I've got some perspective on that too, and I think one of the advantages that you have with your participants is that they're going to be busy themselves as well, right? And so you've actually got a bit of time there because, okay, now continue with that for a few minutes while I set up my camera in a different setup, or and so you can think of your instruction in segments, being that they've now got plenty to play on with, and now you can reset up, and that could be that you're giving yourself a break, voice wise or kind of presenting wise as well, and you could cut to a holding slide or something, for a minute or two, put some music on, that type of thing, and now you just give yourself some breathing space for you to reset up your camera, and you set yourself up for the next segment.
Well,
So I think that could work really well.
That led right into a question. Are there links in Obvio for like music and how you link music and like there's a female preacher that I would love to pop her on, and because she's just got this momentum and this, and it would give an energy to it. And it would get them off of me for a little while and pump them up a little bit, I think. So how do you do that? Is that in Obvio instructions on how to do
really
that?
Cool. No, there is specifically Zoom, it's sort of video and audio into Zoom. So it's not,
okay.
Right. So it's not really Obvio at that point. Remembering that Obvio is about getting our attendees into Zoom, you've still got to think about how you get yourself into Zoom and how you're doing things with sharing videos and things. But ultimately, I think you have do you have a hardware switcher or software? Just remind me how you're doing that.
I have nothing.
You got nothing. Well, because you're going to have your cameras. How are
camera.
you? How are you going to connect that camera to your computer? What's the plan there?
I was instructed there's
USB.
I'll tell you specifically. Yeah, it's he gave me, I was on the phone with B&H Photo for they're wonderful.
Yeah, they're great.
For probably about 2 hours.
Wow.
Okay, so I'm getting a 512 gig SanDisk. In Dipro AC power supply, so I have a dummy power supply.
That's good. Yeah.
And a Magwell USB capture HDMI.
Okay.
Okay. And then
how much so you've ordered this?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that okay, or can I save money? Because that capture was $300.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fine. I probably would have gone to an A10 Mini as a switcher, which would capture as well as you could connect multiple cameras
What's
to that.
It called?
So an A10 Mini. So A10 Mini Pro. Let me think about, which I think is about the same sort of money now.
Well, that's one reason I went to the E10, the Sony E10, is because it had more ports, and the ZV-1 was pretty limited.
Gotcha. Yeah. So
what's the difference between the ATEM and the capture?
So the Magwell, which is a very good device, that's a capture device. I had one sitting on my table. It's not here now. What that does is it just converts HDMI to USB so that you can get video into Zoom, right? So that's what that does. What for the same money, what an ATEM does is gives you 4 HDMI inputs. And gives you
I want one of those instead.
Right. So now you got 4 inputs. And so what that means then is that you could have your camera, and you could also have maybe another computer or something that you could have that was just ready
Okay.
to play some videos. And now you can have videos ready and you can play, and then you can just cut to them. So I've got exactly that sitting in front of me here. And so I can cut to this, I can cut to a computer here, and I can cut back to and that's just
Okay.
touching buttons.
That's
So
what is now. Is that different from a vMix? What's a vMix?
vMix is software running
Oh,
on
okay.
running on a PC. I just put the link to the ATEM in the from
Thank you.
B&H.
Oh, yes.
I would
I think that would be great.
think you'd be able to return the Madwell and get this. You should be able
Okay.
to do that. It's one of the
Thank
good
you.
things with B&H. Yeah. Awesome. We've had a couple of extra people join us. Welcome this morning. It's been it's winter here in Australia, but I know that it's coming into summer over there because people are just in summer mode. It seems, just kind of just chilling, not coming along to the weekly meetings. Anyway, I'm preaching to the choir at the moment because you are the people that have come along. So so thank you. I'll just catch. Is there some questions, Heather, that have come through? I think I was just seeing in the chat here from Rick. What's the advantage between the ATEM Extreme and the ATEM Pro? The ATEM Extreme is 8 inputs. There's a couple of key features. So the ATEM Pro is 4 inputs, HDMI inputs, and 1 output. It has an HDMI output that you can have a multi-view on. And so that's helpful because you can see all of your inputs at once. And it has 1 USB-C out, which would go into your computer as a webcam input into your computer. And that's how that works. With the Extreme, you've got 8 inputs and you have 2 outputs and 2 USB ports as well. And so there's a lot more. Oh, I had the ATEM Extreme sitting right here as well, and it was loose, but that was yesterday. That moved it. And there's another key feature on the Extreme as well, and that is that it does a thing called Super Source, and that's where you can overlay 4 different input windows and arrange them however you want, and kind of create a special view. So that's called a Super Source. So if you can stretch the Extreme, you wouldn't regret it. It's one of those things, and on office hours we talk about where you buy once, cry once. So it's where you cry for how much you have to pay, and then you are very happy. If you cheap out, then you can be crying every day because you've got you just wish that you got the upgraded version or the whatever. So buy once, cry once.
I'm at a whimper, but so yeah, I'm not quite flooding tears yet, but I'm definitely at a whimper. Yeah.
Well, I didn't cost you any more money. Actually, I got you to spend the same money. But
Yeah.
if you did go to the Extreme, that would be different.
But now I want the Extreme, but looking at the price, yeah, that's out of my budget. So I'm going to have to stay at the whimper.
I started with the Pro, and I still use it, and then I've got an Extreme as well, and I use that as well, and I've used them together, and yeah, there's lots. So
thank you.
They're so versatile. So okay, was there any questions, Heather?
None that have come through.
What? That's awesome. Everyone's just showing up to hear everyone else's questions. which is fine. We can learn from people's questions. So remember, we can tackle Obvio related questions, things that you're thinking about with how to do something in Obvio, things to do with how you're running your event, as we've been talking about that a little bit, about ideas of how to use breakout rooms and things like that. And then production as well. We've been talking about different production ideas. And you can ask the question by going on the dashboard and clicking the button on the dashboard, and that'll come through to a system to make sure we don't miss it. We still use the chat, and often that's just related to the topic that we might be talking about at the time. But if people don't ask questions, then it's going to be an early minute, a shorter than 2-hour show. So, what do you want to talk about, people?
Amy
What do
just
you got,
posted a question.
Okay.
What is the best way to regain audience attention when your broadcasts don't go out?
That's a good question. So that raises the it raises the best practice of having multiple avenues to your attendees, because this becomes like a backup strategy, right? So thinking about if something happens, you want to be able to communicate with all of your attendees one way or another. And so, of course, email is going to be the default, but having another avenue is really beneficial. So you'll see on some of the big events that we run, we often use Telegram as another app, and there's two different things in Telegram. Just as an example, you can do a channel and you can do a group. And so a group in Telegram is where everyone can talk, everyone can post, everyone can make comments. And so it's just this big thread of people being able to talk. A channel is one way only, and it's just you, or just the host of the channel. And now you can use that as a way to do sort of push notifications to people. And so that can be really helpful, because you can give last minute changes, or, I mean, we haven't had Zoom, touch wood, we haven't had Zoom actually die on us. We've had little glitches here and there that have not been showstoppers by any means. And so, which is really amazing for what it's doing, connecting all these people around the world. But if that did happen, if we did have a massive Zoom outage totally down, then we would want to be able to tell people, go here to connect. And often for us, that would be having a YouTube live stream or something that we can, get up and racing and have people do that.
Okay. So I haven't tried it yet, but how do we connect Zoom to live stream? Is there a button somewhere? Is it under the video? Is it under the share screen? Where's that?
I guess I can't really show it there. Let me do something here, because we've had people ask that before. But yeah, when you're the host, so only the host can start a live stream.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be the host. Let me do a couple of things here. So I guess one of the interesting things with that is, if you were thinking about what do we do if Zoom dies and we have a live stream, is that if you do your live stream through Zoom, then that's going to stop as well, right?
Oh, yeah,
Because
that makes sense. I was thinking that.
Zoom has just stopped. but there's lots of ways now. Even with YouTube, you can use your webcam in the YouTube studio or like the, and you can just start live streaming straight from your camera as if you were in Zoom. So
Okay.
you can do that. But let me show you this anyway. It's actually, yeah, it's super simple. What's not super simple is me being able to show that while I'm in another one. Jenny's very excited about the ATEM. She's got to go have a lie down, it seems. She's so excited.
She might need a snack.
That's right.
So I've done
Yep.
StreamYard where I can live stream to many different platforms.
Yes.
So I guess that might be a switchover if Zoom were to go down or if something were to happen. But I'm thinking of it too. I'm thinking of the live stream from Zoom to something else might be a way to get attendees' attention. Hey, there's a meeting going on. You
Yeah.
should be there.
Yes. And that's that extra kind of that the immediate connection or communication that you want with people, which is better than email, right? Like email is functional for people to be able to get their login links, and that's going to work. But if you want to get past all the noise that they might have in their inboxes, then being able to have a way to connect directly. Ordered. Nice.
Yeah.
Well done, Jenny. Yeah, so thinking about that, WhatsApp, we've used WhatsApp for events as well. You know, people have different feelings about how that works. One of the things is that we are still in the alpha testing for SMS broadcasts.
That's what I was
So in the
mostly
same
wondering
thing.
about. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, I know you can
do you know-
Zoom, you can apply Zoom through Slack too.
Yes. Yeah. There's lots of different ways, lots of those different communication avenues that you can use. The SMS, I think, is going to be challenging because of spam laws and things. It's getting trickier and trickier. There's lots of hoops that we've had to jump through to make it really work. And we're getting it. We got it to work for TVE. This last one is when we were sending out quite a few, and we were sending them around the world, and I was receiving them in Australia. It was fine. But more and more countries are now saying, hang on, we need to know who you are. You need to be registered within the country to be able to send, right? So it's just a little bit more of that. And you get it, but people are like, I don't want to be getting, thousands of text messages a day. I've already got thousands of email spam that I get. So I don't want that to be text messages. We think that we've got a unique position in that it's event based, and it very much is often paid ticket holders, attendees that have paid something to come to the event, and we feel like that makes it a bit more connected, and and so they want to receive those text messages. But having multiple avenues, I think, is really helpful. So the Telegram idea of being able to broadcast, even groups like Facebook groups that will continue on. So thinking about something that exists beyond your event, and even pre-event. If I'm sure you've been in some groups that for an event, and once you register, you get access into that event, into that Facebook group or something, and now you've got something there. Well, then you can post in there, and you can use the @everyone tag to be able to push out to everyone a notification. So I don't know. This is the thing. Not everyone's on Facebook or wants to be on Facebook either, right? So,
Yeah, right.
so you got that challenge a little bit too, but
Lots of choices.
yeah. But having them up your sleeve, I think is really important. And so you're thinking about the backup strategy, but there's also these extra benefits that you get to be able to communicate with people. So I
Yeah,
can't.
I'd like to just hire someone to go through each of my Obvio dashboards and make sure that all the broadcasts are updated the night before. But
Right. Yeah, I guess you feel like you've been burnt one too many times on that, right? Like where it hasn't gone out or something, and that's you really want someone to check it.
It's just, I thought I had them all done. I had 2 meetings in the same day, back to back, different dashboards.
Oh wow.
And I had one was okay, and the other one was supposed to go to the not checked people, which there weren't any, so it didn't go to anybody.
Yeah, I think that we can. I think we can do a little more in the interface to make that obvious in the list. Not so much even once you get into the edit screen, but just in the list so that you can see it. That it's you're filtering that to non-checked in. Is that what you wanted? Like really clearly there.
Yeah.
Or this is not enabled. Are you really sure you don't want it to be in, right? Are you sure you want that to be in draft? Yeah. So, and that's why it's still in beta for us. Like we're still sort of fine tuning that to make sure that those sorts of things are not easily overlooked.
Cool. Maybe Obvio can start sending the users messages. Hey, you've got a meeting tomorrow. Did you update it?
Right. Yeah. That actually is something that we've been talking about as far as checklists and things. Like we could help with a couple days before your event to be able to say, hey, have you thought of these 5 things or 10 things, just to make sure and go through and make sure that you've got all of that. But yeah, that would be good on making a note of that now.
Yeah, because you have to make sure certain rules are on the right date for the right time. There's more than one.
Yeah, totally.
I've gotten better at those, but still too many whack-a-moles going on.
Yeah. All right. Doesn't look like there's other questions. Anything in the
Is it snowing
there?
where you are? It's winter. Does it snow?
It doesn't. No, we tend to have hot summers and just kind of medium. Like it wouldn't. It'd be lucky to be this in the it'd be 60s. I reckon would be the lowest that we get. It's like I shudder to say that to some of you. They're just like, you mean minus 60?
That would be the Canadians.
Yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, I think it's like 59 is the top tomorrow, so it's really not that. Nothing to complain about.
So are you in Fahrenheit or are you in Celsius?
Celsius.
No. Okay.
Yeah, it's like 15 degrees Celsius. Yeah. I'm in Adelaide, South Australia. Well, are you excited about that, Jenny?
I traveled the Outback for a year and a half. I bought a vehicle. I went over there, bought a vehicle. I did this when I was young. And so I know the Adelaide and all the central I did the whole thing for a year and a half until they kicked me out. They wouldn't renew my visa. I almost bought property in the Adelaide area. It's beautiful.
Wow. There you go. Yeah. I'm up in the hills in a place called Mount Barker. And so I'm about 40 minutes away from Adelaide.
Oh, so you're up in the wine country.
Yeah.
Pretty,
Yeah.
very pretty.
Mm-hmm. All right. We clearly don't have questions because we're talking about South Australia.
Well, I'll jump in if nobody else has any questions because I'm such a newbie.
You're so excited.
I'm always
Go ahead.
excited about everything. Well, on the checklist, I mean, is there an actual, because I haven't, next week is when I'm going to start. I'll have all the technical questions for like the technical video and that type of thing. I mean, if nobody else has questions, we can start that.
To start the checklist?
Yeah, I mean, I need to know, where do I even start an Obvio, and then do the videos. But in creating the video for my students to be able to, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have, preliminary videos like we talked about for checking their machines and making sure that's running. And then I know you've got the, tech check like we do when, with the Tony Robbins, where you actually get on the call and they go through your equipment. Am I going to need to, I know I'm going to need to do that live, but is there, I was hoping there was a video I could create that, what do I need to include in that little blurb that I could have that could go out to students to have them pre-prepare.
Specifically about their usage of Obvio, like how to get things working.
And setting up and since they're going to be using their cell phone and they're going to be using a whole separate piece of equipment, you're taking a bunch of us old chicks that are challenged to begin with, pushing us over the cliff. So is there some specifics that I should have in that video?
Yeah, let's so one of the things is that I think you can definitely do this as like a welcome video on the dashboard. So, and this is as simple as you create a video, you post it on YouTube, you can make it unlisted, and then you embed it onto the dashboard in a blog post. I'll show you that. So here's that was even an example of it, I think. Here's the dashboard that we're on at the moment that you came through. And so here is we call them blog posts, but it was just a term for being able to post something onto the dashboard however you want it to be, whatever that is. If you look at this, then this is a new post. We can call it whatever you want, and then you can insert media. So then you literally put in the YouTube link, and then that will insert the video. If you have a more complex, like that'll work for YouTube and Vimeo and a couple others. If it's not working for the type of video that you want to embed, then you can do an HTML, and all of the video sites will give you a code that you can copy and paste the HTML code and just plug it in, and that's going to show you, and that's going to make the video available. So then to the content that you're talking about, I would be saying things like, you can see a button but above this video that says, join the main stage, or join the sewing room, or whatever you're going to call your button. Join the so what room. I got a smile. I got a smile from Jenny, but not much else. So you could call it whatever that is, but you can actually say in your video. So just hit the so what button up above, and that's going to launch Zoom, and now you're in. And so same goes for we would like you to test out having a phone as well, because there are times where we're going to want to have a nice close-up of exactly what you're doing, and you might have a challenge or you have a real question. We want you to be able to use your phone and show us all exactly what it is that you're messing around with, or how you've got your sewing machine into a tangle. We can help you with that, but we will need another camera rather than you trying to lift your laptop computer or webcam around. It's going to be easier for you to use your phone. So if you've got your email on your phone, then you will click the link to join the dashboard that we sent you in the email. That's going to take you straight to this dashboard, and then you're going to have a button there that says, so what? Join here. And you'll click that button. That's going to launch Zoom, and now you're in the meeting twice, potentially. So one of the things that we want to make sure you do with that is to not unmute on the you need to choose what it's going to be, and probably you would keep your computer muted and then use your phone to be able to speak to us, and that way it's nice and close. And one way or another you decide you're going to need to keep one muted, and when I say muted, it's not just the microphone muted, but the speakers also muted, the sound to be turned off of the computer as well. Otherwise, they're going to hear themselves back, and it's still
okay.
Right. You'll get
So
feedback on there.
So they'll need to actually go into their computer and turn the sound off on their computer.
Yeah. As I'm saying it, it probably makes sense that they just use their computer for sound, and the phone is not sound at all. And what's a really good way of doing it is on the phone. There is a let me think here. There's a thing called leave audio. Let me get it here. Yeah, it's disconnect. So, but you could do a little video of this. Like on a phone, you can do a screen recording on the phone, and then you could put that video into your video. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So this is just in another Zoom meeting right now, and it's connected in the normal way. So I've got down here mute, start video, things like that, right? Right at the end, there's the ellipsis, which is the three dots for more options. And right at the bottom of that, there's a thing in red, and it says disconnect audio. And when I hit that, I now can't have any audio in or out of my phone. It's all it is camera. And that way it's 100% not going to cause any feedback. That really is a tech check type thing to do, and I'm not sure in your mind how you're going to do when you're going to do that tech check, but that feels like a couple days before or something like that. I think we spoke about that, is the idea of like just beforehand, just so you know, everyone, this is what we're thinking. There's a little bit of work to do here, but if we get this right, it's going to make our day go so much better. And so let's learn together a little bit about how to make Zoom really work well for us, how we're going to do the multi-devices, and if we get all this right, then we'll get to a point where we can forget about that technology and we can just focus on our craft. That's the type of stuff you want to say. And there's sorts of things that I say at our events often is let's not just often the default is people come last minute, have thought not for a second about how their setup is. They come last minute at the time that the show starts and they're thinking of it like another typical Zoom meeting that they don't really care that much about. And so they've spent no time thinking about how they're doing it. When we do tech checks, it means that people are forced to really think about, actually, I'm going to be doing this event for 8 hours. How do I want my tech to be set up? How do I want to be seen? How do I want to view it? Do I want to connect to my TV and I can sit on the couch? Do I want to, or whatever it is? In your case, Jenny, I want to be able to see Jenny really large on a big screen would be so good. And so that I can see it really clearly, and that's going to make it easier for me to copy what she's doing and that sort of stuff. So let's think about that. And then how do I want the sound to work? My speakers aren't very good on my laptop. Can I connect some other speakers to it? Oh yeah, I can. If I think about this for 5 minutes, I'm actually going to have a way better experience because I've thought about this. And this is no different to doing an in-person event where you plan out, where am I going to stay? How am I going to get there? I want to get there an hour early so I can get a coffee at the cafe first, and then I'm going to join the event. Whereas reminding people that actually some forward thinking and planning for your online event is going to make a big difference to how you experience it. And particularly with yours, Jenny, there's a whole other technical aspect of how what outlet are they plugging their sewing machine into if they've got their laptop there as well. And, they're going to just simple stuff. And you just don't want that. You don't want them distracted by all of that when they're coming to the start of the event. And you've got all these people messing around with power strips trying to make it all work, right? It's like, no, I've had this set up for a couple of days. I've really thought about it. And I've tested doing it with my phone, that sort of stuff. So you're totally, I love the way that you're thinking because it's, okay, what can I give them a week out,
Oh, yeah.
And it's this type of stuff that you want to be saying to them. I want you to really, really be prepared for when it comes next week, that you're really prepared for it. And here's a bunch of things that you want to think about to be prepared for.
Well, I was actually even going to include in their box that they receive a sheet, a checklist sheet that they need to go down to make sure that, okay, is this turned on? Is this connected? Is that turned on? And because even with videos, like even in this course, there's so much video that you have to watch. People just, a lot of times, they won't take the time. So for those last minute sallies, I'm going to have a checklist included in their box that they will need to go down a week before, 2 weeks before, a week before, and then, the day of. So just to try, because I am dealing with machines. And so it's concerning to me, but I'm excited.
Well, and combating that a little bit is the idea of you potentially doing one or two live events before it, like as in 2 weeks before. If you think that they're not going to watch their videos, then for you, what you do is you say, we're going to do a Q&A night. We're going to come together for an hour or two. And our game plan is just to get our setups working, and we're going to help each other workshop it. And I'm going to give you a few tips, and we're going to just test out a few of the functions, and I'm going to be testing some things as well, and you're going to be testing them, and that's really going to set us up well. Now,
like that.
from your point of view, like you're going to be messing around with this stuff anyway, so you might as well have some of your community come to that, some of your attendees. It's going to help them. They're going to get more connected to you. They're going to be more prepared, for the event. It's just a no-brainer. You might as well. And not everyone's going to come, but there'll be some, and they'll have a better experience because of it.
Thank you so much.
It's good. I think you got a great event there. Can is your event called Stitch and Bitch?
I don't. I don't have. I may have to borrow that, and I kind of like the "so what" too, because that could just have a lot of. I may be borrowing that also, but I actually was working on names yesterday, and I'm just not creative in that. Give me a piece of fabric, man, I can do anything.
Right.
But give me all this other, and I'm just like, please, somebody else do it. So I'm working on names right now, but I like the Stitch and Bitches because a lot of them are pretty cranky and demanding. So you know, it's the age group thing.
Right. Do you know? I think the strength will come through in that you your strength will come through in that you are an expert in the area, and so that, I don't know, it covers a multitude of sins, I guess, as far as the whole thing goes. And people will sniff out you trying to be an imposter or trying to be someone that you're not, and trying to turn it into some other big event, something. Because at the end of the day, you've got an opportunity to connect one-on-one with people. It's what's unique about what we do here is that you don't want to lose sight of that you're talking into a microphone that's coming out the speakers to one person. And you happen to be doing that simultaneously with multiple people. But if you always hold on to the fact that you're just talking with one person and that's the way you approach it, that's the only way that they receive it, right? That's the only way that we do when we're sitting here now. I'm talking to you, Jenny, but Tamara's, nodding along, totally with it too, right? Because I'm also talking with her, and we're connecting like this, but I'm intentionally speaking just to you. And so when you do that and you share your area of genius, it'll be magnetic. And you can lean on that,
Thank you. I'm excited. I think it's going to be great.
I do too. I think you're asking all the right questions. You're thinking about all the right stuff, and anything that you can do that takes pressure off of the event days, and gives you a head start is totally worth it. Yeah. Damon, you've had your hand up for a while there.
I have. I'm driving, but I'm going to pull over so that I can get the answer to the question, but I'm going to ask the question while I'm driving. Fair enough?
Okay. Go for it.
Good. All right. So here's what's up. I need to understand the architecture, and I'm glad we're talking tech. I need to understand the video architecture that's involved in bringing in the Q&A, bringing people side by side onto the screen and not getting that echo effect, that infinite mirror effect, So, I'm using an ATEM Mini or an ATEM Mini Extreme ISO, and I've got OBS, so I have a lot of flexibility and things that I can do and ways that I can layer things. But I'm sure I can figure it out. but why figure it out when I can just ask you and be done with it? Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Okay, cool.
So
All right.
just tell me a couple more things about your event. So are we talking about one Zoom meeting or are we multiple rooms?
So it doesn't matter. You tell me what needs to happen in order to make that happen. So
how many,
if we
how many attendees?
Don't know yet. I'm anticipating out of the gate, probably fewer than 1,000, but it will scale, obviously. So here's if it's a single Zoom room and we've got, the ATEM basically is one camera that's collected in, or that is connected to Zoom. There's not a way for me to get another feed unless I utilize another Zoom instance, right? Because the ATEM is the camera for that Zoom instance. So that would be me as speaker on cam, right? If I need to bring someone else in, I need another Zoom instance. I can bring that into the ATEM, put them side by side with the, the PMP or whatever, or put those two feeds into OBS and make that happen. But when I attempted to do this over the past, or yesterday, when I was trying to sort this, I ended up with my image being that infinite mirror, the infinity mirror thing.
Video feedback.
Right.
Video feedback. Yes. So what is happening there is that particularly when were you spotlighting as well? Is that what was happening?
I've tried it a couple of different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So the best way to think about this is that to try to think of your show, particularly in the ATEM, as a broadcast in its own right. Think about that you've got inputs coming in, you've got your camera, and you might have a Zoom participant that's coming in, and you might want to do a side by side, a 2-up shot or something. Now, you want to think about the content that's going into the ATEM, and then where is that going out and joining something else. Now, it's possible for that to join the same Zoom meeting, and what ends up happening as the experience for people is that they're seeing, if we're considering it's one Zoom meeting, what they would see is your camera or your video image into that Zoom meeting has the 2-up, and there's your camera and then a little picture of someone speaking, and because they're all in the same meeting as well, they would also see that person full screen as well, who is speaking and going into that picture. Now, in order to do that, you need to be able to have a separate monitor. So then you've got a dedicated secondary monitor that you can pin that person to, and that second monitor is going into your ATEM, and now you've got your second input, which is a dedicated input that doesn't change if you were to spotlight. The spotlighting becomes the problem because it changes it for you as well, and now you get video feedback.
Okay, I got most of what you said, but I do not understand how a monitor can be an input because it receives signals, it doesn't send signals.
Gotcha. So what you can do is have this is exactly what I've got here. I've got a monitor that's sitting on my desk here, but instead of my computer going directly to the monitor, it goes into the ATEM.
Okay.
And then it goes out of the ATEM, and that's how I have a computer input into my ATEM. And
hold on a second. Wait a minute. I want to make sure that I get this because I can't write it down.
You're right.
You've got the monitor. Do this one more time. You've got your computer. You've got a computer that's doing an output directly to that monitor, correct?
No.
Do it again.
Yep. So the computer computer, instead of going directly to the monitor, the computer goes to my ATEM as an input
Okay.
into the ATEM, right?
Right. I'm with you.
And then it comes out like that. And so now it's an input on my ATEM, and now I've got this as a second screen of the Zoom meeting that we're in.
Right.
And so now I can bring you in into my ATEM, and I can do whatever I want there.
Okay. So if I hold on, no, I'm like this close. So if we take,
I can tell.
so I've got an ATEM. I've got a computer that is that's running the software control. It's got OBS on it. It's got anything that would be displayed, etc. And that I'm just going to call that the master computer for control of the ATEM, right?
Okay. Yep.
From what I'm understanding, you're saying that a second computer, right, with a second Zoom instance would be sit into the input of the ATEM, right? And then that image would be able to be, or I could take that image and I could do anything with it at that point. So we are talking about, in this architecture that I've set up, we are talking about two different computers, correct? And then setting them side.
So that is a way to do it. That is a way to do it. And that was one that I was going to suggest. In what I'm talking about, what I'm talking about here is actually the same computer.
Right.
So this was not a second computer that was doing it. It was a second screen output. So Zoom can do dual outputs.
Yep.
And so then you can have that, and that's what I'm doing right there. So I've got a gallery view I'm looking at, and then I've got this view that's on my other screen.
Yeah, I get that, and I don't
want
to.
Second computer could be an easier way of doing it.
Yeah, and I don't want to take over the call because I know that this is really, really in the weeds, and most of the people that are on this call couldn't give a rat's about what we're talking about. I totally get that.
No, some people. Lots of people are doing this. Lots of people have got ATEMs. They're thinking about how they do this, and I guess I could have started with this question, and that is, what is the advantage? What is it that you're trying to achieve by doing, picture in pictures and things like that? If you're in one meeting, people can already see them. You could spotlight you and the other person, and they would now have the same experience in Zoom.
Because at the end of the day, I want to be able to publish it, and I want to be able to have a side-by-side, really nice, clean image for playback.
Great answer.
Yeah.
Yep. So you've got an ATEM Extreme ISO, which means that you can record in ISO all of those outputs, and you can generate whatever you want.
I don't want to do it in post. It's too much work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I follow.
So this is good. So then the next question that I come to is there a lot of this that's happening? So there's Q&A. Is that the type of thing that's happening? There's lots of different people that could be speaking, or is it speakers or?
No, there won't be any panel work. This is the first iteration of this product, first iteration of this concept. So I just wanted to be able to present the Q&A in a really nice professional manner. And, and so basically baby steps, right? We'll do the first thing first, and then we'll progress it into multiple speakers and that type of thing. But that's what's up.
Yeah. So, great. And so having a second computer would really give you a lot of control there, because you would pin. Remember, just for everyone's benefit, pin is always local only. Pinning someone is only your experience or that computer's experience. Spotlighting is always everyone. And so when you spotlight someone, it pushes, if someone's sitting in gallery view and you go to spotlight, it pushes everyone to active speaker mode, to full screen.
Right.
And therein lies the problem when you're trying to do, and that's where you get the video feedback.
Yeah. Okay,
Right.
I think the light bulb just went off. It's a pen. Pen to that second screen, use that second input, pull that in. Got it. No echo. Beautiful. Perfect. I understand.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. No, yeah, you're right on the money with the talking about trying to do live to tape, not trying to do a bunch of work in post.
Yeah.
It is a better experience because people can just have that full screen, and now it doesn't matter if the guest is still in their meeting, they're seeing
Exactly.
your picture. So that's totally doable.
Beautiful. Brilliant. Thank you. That's what I
Yes,
needed.
of course.
I appreciate it.
No worries. You can get back on the road.
Okay. All right.
Thanks, David. All right. Was there any other questions that came of all of that shenanigans?
We have one from Rick. He said, what
Mhm.
do you recommend for backup or workaround for internet? We have a hardwired internet, but we still have issues with the strong signal connection in the same house.
So you use an Ethernet connection? Yep. So you Ethernet but you still have trouble with that because of the type of connection it is. Is it a DSL connection or cable connection or something that freaks out sometimes, or is it just the usage in the house that causes that fluctuation? Do you know?
Yes, I do now.
Okay.
Good.
Mhm.
You hear me?
Yeah, gotcha.
Good. Well, we've been chasing their tail with Comcast. We have our broadcast studio in the office where we have our router, but the rest of the house, it drops a signal. Just two-story construction, HVAC system, and we've been chasing their tail with our provider. So we want to go ahead and move our studio to a bigger room, something that my wife can actually, duplicate a live event like you guys do at Sage Events. So you can actually,
Mhm.
hey, here's the whiteboard, here's this, I'm standing. But we chase their tail in that part of the house. Now, we're not talking about 5,000 square feet or 8 or 10. We're talking about, walk downstairs, walk across the living room, and there's our studio. And I want to make sure we nail this. And we've been just, I don't know if we have to change providers or something that we can do.
So the connection, when you have your Ethernet connection in the studio, that works fine.
Most of the time it works fine. Zoom,
Okay.
it's good. Picture quality is Zoom quality. You know, it is what it is. StreamYard can be picky. That's why we want to stick with Zoom and Obvio. But
Mhm.
boy, when we go to the other part of the house, we joke it's back in the woods, things drop off. Even cable TV reception in that area is poor, which is really weird.
And that's the Wi-Fi that you're on then, right?
No, we
Yeah.
would set it up. We would hardwire. We're gonna have somebody AV come in and
Okay.
hardwired everything. Right now, when we have Wi-Fi with a television, we're running our apps downstairs. It's very poor. It just, drops. It starts spinning. It's like, oh, okay, go back to the hardwired channels.
Yeah. Are you on Wi-Fi now?
I am. This computer's
Yeah.
on Wi-Fi.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, because it was just saying low or connection issues a little bit even now. So I get what you're saying.
Yeah, Liz,
Um,
when Liz pops on, I'm sorry to interrupt. When Liz
Yeah.
pops on, she's literally the next room, but she's hardwired and doesn't have that issue.
Any problem? Yeah, right. Okay, yeah. So anything you can do, having a sort of the latest routers and stuff like that you get from your provider to to make sure that you're getting as best a connection as you possibly can, and then always using Ethernet to the different machines that you're using. Then it comes down to you're talking about backup. There's a few different ways of doing backup, and it can get pretty complicated. But I wonder how good cellular connection is within your house, because that not very good. Okay.
No, it's where if you look at the topography, we're
Mhm.
backed up against a farm and there's this little ridge. Not much.
Gotcha.
We're not talking about the
Right.
Sierra Nevadas. We're talking about a hill like you might see in Australia. And that seems to
Right.
cause a shadow.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, and that can definitely happen with cellular for sure. So really, it's just any other options. Any other providers in the area to get. I'm guessing there's no fiber in your street if you're talking farm. So then the only other real option other than cellular is to go satellite, like with Starlink. So Starlink is actually can be pretty amazing. I just tested Starlink at my house a couple of weeks ago, and I had 200 megabit down and another, what was it, like 20 megabit up speeds, and I got on a Zoom call, and people were really impressed with it. It was rock solid, and it was fine. And now that is satellite, which means it's tracking satellites across the sky at tens of thousands of miles an hour. So of course, just like a phone signal can drop when you're driving along, it can, even just the little microstarters, that can happen. But it would get you out of trouble as far as having a backup connection. And so, and the way that would work, there's a few different complicated ways potentially, or it can get complex, of how you would switch those connections. And yeah, the easiest sort of would be to have a dumb switch, we call them, which is just a network hub. They used to be called hub or a switch, and so it has like a 8-port, something like that. And so you plug your router in, and now it just kind of repeats all those ports. It kind of gives you a splitter, in a sense, for all of your Ethernet ports. And so you have one connection plugged into your main router, and then you have all of your other connections are plugged into this switch. Then if you had an outage, you could unplug the router, just that one cable, and plug it into the Starlink router, for example, and now you're up and racing again. So there's lots of other systems for doing automatic failover and things like that, but that does get more complex. But even just having a simple cable that that you can just switch out. The other thing you can consider, so is it cable that you're on, or is it DSL, or what is the actual connection?
Cable.
Do you know?
Oh,
It is
yeah.
cable.
It's cable.
So
Yes, sir.
you may even find that you could do get a second cable service, and so you get another router, and it's using the same physical cable coming into your house, but you've got two distinct services, which means that you could kind of balance your multiple rooms or services across those two different services. Does that make sense? So so that you could have two main computers, and they could both be on their own individual service from the cable company. And it means two separate routers from the cable company, two completely distinct services. And what that would mean then is that you're not trying to do all of your work on one service. And it could even mean that by having those two separate services, you could have one that just runs your Wi-Fi for your whole house, and you have one that's just running your Ethernet for, the work, like the studio side of it. So it's just another another idea.
And that we're talking about two separate companies then?
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess you can't. It's always just the same company, right? Is it Comcast? Comcast is in your area. Is that what it is?
Yeah, Comcast. Then we have another provider too that's in our area. Then it would be
Okay.
satellite.
Yeah. So there's, yeah. The old, other than Starlink, the old satellite is, next door to useless. Like it would definitely not work with a Zoom call and things like that.
Yeah.
Starlink is totally different because it's low orbit, low Earth orbit, and so you're now getting actually the latency is actually much lower, and so you can conduct a real time conversation over Starlink really well. So it is a bit different, but so my understanding with your cable connection is that you could get another box from Comcast and you would get a separate service, and now you've got double the bandwidth, right? So now you've got two distinct services, and now you can choose how you distribute that in the house. Of course, you got to pay double the amount, right? You can pay double your internet fee,
which is crazy. What they're charging is around $400,
Oh, wow.
over $400 American dollars. And I feel like we're paying $400 for a thank you and a kick in the butt.
Yeah, right. Well, I would definitely try Starlink. I think you'll pay about $100.
Yeah.
And so this is the other thing, is that Starlink would probably work really well for all of your other stuff in the house. And then you just decide which one works better. In theory, your cable connection should work better than the satellite, but I would definitely try it. And you don't have to. I think you got to pay a little bit to get the hardware. It's not a lot, and then you're not locked into a contract either. So you can kind of you can do $100 a month and turn it off for a few months and then turn it back on and things like that. So.
Oh, I got a question. With Starlink, once in a while we get our, the storms that come through the Midwest. We're in Tennessee, and sometimes they can be intense. Certainly not a typhoon or hurricane, but they can be crazy. And, so would that be also, would Starlink get interrupted by that, or is that a nice workaround?
It can. And I haven't heard exactly what it needs. I mean, obviously, like a lightning storm, I think can be a big problem. Kind of all of that static electricity and stuff around that can cause a problem. But yeah, so yes, you can have problems there. So, but yeah, I'd sort of explore all the different options that you can get, and be checking. I know you said about cellular, but of course you can get antennas for cellular as well. And so you may be able to get up on the roof and point it in a particular direction and try the different carriers. And you might find that Verizon works, better than AT&T or whatever it is, T-Mobile, or, whoever that you can find one that works better for you. You kind of explore all those options. That's what
we have
I've done.
Horizon right now.
Yeah, right.
But it's just a weird little animal. It's a perfect house, great room for our events, but that little shadow it caused in the back.
Yeah. I would definitely give Starlink a try. I think you might find that works really well for you.
That's great. Thanks. I really appreciate that. That's gold.
Of course. No worries at all. Now, Jenny's wants to ask another question. It's kind of been the Jenny show today, so but I'll take your question, Jenny. Just as long as there wasn't anyone else that hasn't spoken. Is there any other questions, Heather, that have come through?
Not at the moment, no.
All right. Okay, Jenny, what do you got? I'm all yours. Yup. I think you're swearing at me, but you're muted.
I don't know that I'm going to ask now. I actually think this is not the right group. So I'm having some serious tech issues with Facebook. So I've addressed it in the other group, so I can wait there patiently. And
I can I can have a stab at it if you like.
well, I don't know if I got hacked or it was stolen or Facebook. I'm very politically active. They might have just taken me down. And my personal Facebook page since January, I couldn't do the 2-part authentication and all that. None of it would go through. So I'm trying to just do another personal Facebook page, and it's only allowing me to do a business page. And I've been battling it for a month. And but I posted it in Facebook, so somebody there might be able to help me since it's the Jenny show.
Well, they've only got, 500 million users. I'm sure the support, they'll get straight onto you, helping you as quick as they can. That's a funny thing, isn't it? Like it's.
I'm talking about Facebook, our group. Our group. I posted in our group.
Oh, you did? Okay. Setting up new profiles. They've really cracked down on fake accounts, and so they make it really hard to create new accounts. And so that might be what you're coming across, is they're making it particularly difficult because they might already know that you've got an account, and so they're saying that you can't have another standard profile, but you can set up a business account or something. But there's those hoops that you jump through with all of that change. It seems like hourly. You go back and it's like, hang on, it's a different process, and it's all difficult. But I'd be trying to get access back to your original profile. Is that you just lost access to that now, or it's just gone, you think?
The profile is there, and I mean, I can see the last time I did a post, it's still there, and friends can log into it, but I can't gain access as the owner of that account. And
Gotcha.
I've gone through all the hoops on Google and everything, and it's just annoying because I've got to, you can't have a business account joining all of my types of groups. They don't want business, they want private. And so if I'm going to start building that, which is going to be where most of my people are going to come from, I need a personal account, and it's a problem that needs to get solved.
I mean, I was joking about their support, but they do have a support process to try to help you regain access and stuff to a lost profile, or something's happened there, and you sort of prove your identity, and they can reset passwords and whatever. So it could be worth just stepping through that a bit.
Well, I've actually gone through all that, and I'm not going to hold up the group. And as far as a name for the course, it's Discover Your Visual Language on Fabric. So
nice.
I'm going to let everybody else step up. I'll work through it with people in the Facebook group.
Fair enough. Well, all the best with that. That can be extremely frustrating. Well, see, now the show's just ground to a halt because you've stopped asking questions, Jenny. I've really enjoyed the journey with you, Jenny. As I said before, questions and talking about the tech and the cameras and the stuff. You've stayed so open and sort of exploring the best ways of doing things, and it's been really cool. So I think you're setting up to win, which I'm excited for you. What time is it? Oh, we have actually gone past 2 hours. How's that? Look at that. I've got no reason to keep asking for questions. I've gone. It's easy when it's nearly midnight here that I just kept talking with you all. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Well done, Tamara. You got up so early. You got to ask a few questions, and then you just sat for another 2 hours and listened to everything else happen.
I was updating Ventura so I can get Zoom cuts.
Ah, nice. Nice.
I got to make that work by.
That's cool. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We will next week. I think Blue sent me a message halfway through that. I think he's on the West Coast at the moment and slept through his alarm, and so he missed it altogether. But I'm sure that next week, which is at 5 p.m. Eastern, there's a stronger chance of having Blue here because it'll be at the end of the day. So 5 p.m. Eastern next Wednesday. And of course, you can ask questions in our Obvio Facebook group, and then there's the live chat that you can find as well. And then you can always email us at help@obv.io, and we'd love to help you there. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Heather. Bye-bye.